Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. And I'm Mary Crafts, and I have today a wonderful dear friend and our guest today that I get to pick his brain. And why do I want to pick Tom's brain? Well, Tom knows a lot. He knows a lot about things that are important to me, such as the connection between mental health and our happiness, the connection between mental health and how healthy I am and what my body, how it performs, my mental health and the quality of my life. If we only focus on how much money we make, what house I live in, what car I drive, we're going to end up pretty unhappy. Like, let me tell you, I just got back from Egypt. I looked at all the stuff those pharaohs had accumulated. They were still dead. They were still in their tomb, and they were still all by themselves. And they had the worst lives. Sometimes they were cut up into pieces. Sometimes they were this, sometimes they were not happy because they were so focused on just what they were putting in that tomb. And Tom and I are here to teach you a little bit about maybe what we think that's really about in this life. So welcome to the podcast, Tom Telford.
Thank you so much. What an introduction, Mary. The pharaohs,
Yeah, you and
Egypt.
the fair. Yeah.
Wow. I feel old today, but thank you for having me. This is
Oh,
awesome to spend time with you. I'm a fan. I'm a
I'm a
fan. I
fan
heard you
too of
speak
yours.
last year about an episode, and you said something about radical honesty. And I
Yeah.
immediately thought, this is a woman who gets it, who just throws strikes, is very honest. So yeah, I'm just a fan. So thanks for having me. This was fun.
You're so welcome, Tom. That was in a phase of my life when I was really discovering the value of that honesty. Uh, I went in that older senior dating game, and I would see somebody's picture on their profile, and then you'd read all about it. Oh, that sounds like something I would just love. You know what I mean? And then when you would meet them, I'm like, oh, where's the rest of you? You said you were 6'2" and you're like 5'7", and and then they'd be like, oh, they'd say that they were 63 and in reality they were probably 83. And they'd say that they were full of adventure and loved to have deep conversations, and they didn't know how to carry on a conversation with one. And my thought with that, Tom, was always, what is the point of that? Because eventually the truth is going to be seen. I've not
Yes.
seen in my life any time anyone was able to cover up their true identity for extended periods of time. I said, what would be the point? To go through
Yeah.
disappointment? To show yourself as a charlatan? But how about if you step forward? And if the words we speak are honest from the very get-go, and they're proven to be honest by our actions and deeds, then people's respect for you, the integrity you hold with people, the value of that can't ever be measured.
Yeah. That is so powerful, Mary. I love that you're framing it that way because our conversation today really is you mentioned happiness. And I think a lot of the challenge in the world today with mental health that people are unhappy is because of what you're describing. They've thought that they could be happy by staying very surface, right?
Mm.
I joke often that I'm a big consumer of self tanner, right? Just put the self
I am
tanner
too.
on,
I am too.
just right. And I joke about it, but in truth, what is it for? It's because I want to show up so that others that, see me as tan or that my skin is whatever, that it's not a distraction. And that's part of the problem in
Yeah.
our world today is, and there's some buzzwords just to share. I get asked all the time, how is AI impacting my business? How is, artificial intelligence driving da da da? And my response often is, no, I believe in AI, not artificial intelligence, but authentic intelligence. Am
Oh,
I showing up authentically? what you're describing is radical honesty. Am I willing to show up honest in the world? Because, and you just said something so powerful that I just want to go back to. So often people can show up unauthentically and it works for them. They survive
Mm,
on it for a little bit of time. But you said the equalizer is an extended period of time. Eventually, who you really are is going to surface. And your authenticity of whoever you are eventually will come out. And so that's a problem in our world today with artificial so much. Self tanner, right? It's
because I
it's a
like to look
symbol
healthy.
of
And in my head, it says, if you're tan, you're healthy. That's
yeah,
my lens.
yeah. Well, me too. I was
Yeah,
raised through the '80s where it's like, put on baby oil and bake your face and, get really tan and look like you're, good on the outside. But
yeah,
in truth, Mary, part of the reason that I love that you invited me and that I listened to this podcast as a listener is because you may have the self tanner on the outside, but I know the work you've done inside. I
yes,
feel it from you when you speak in public. I know that you're an Entrepreneur of the Year awardee because you've done the internal work that drives external rewards, right? And
yeah.
so I know you're not just self tanner. I know you're doing things of substance, And so I just love that about you, that you can show up at this age and stage of your life in a very authentic, wow, authentic and vulnerable way, and
Mm.
I respect you, and my love of people happens to come from a place of respect. I have to respect them. I don't know why it's a blind spot of mine, a bias, but I respect you. And so I love you. I love the work that you're doing. I think it's fantastic. So
Mm.
anyway, all that to say, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tom. From the first time that I met you, which has been a couple, 2, 3 years ago, we were at the Promise to Live monthly summits in at Silicon Slopes, and we were there supporting uh, that organization. And usually she had a group of people speak, and I had spoken, you had spoken, we heard other people speak, and I was so impressed with you when you spoke.
Hmm.
And I thought, I like that guy. He's kind of the real deal. And that
I don't remember what I
authenticity,
said.
it just came
Yeah.
through. And then, but the real test for me was when I went up to you. It was like at the same time we went up to each other. And I shook your hand, I looked in your face, and I saw a genuine person who had no other goal in mind than connection. It wasn't like, what can Mary do for me? Or who will she introduce me to? Or, well, this and this over here. Or what about this over here? It was just, I see you and I value you. I'd like to know you. And that was so clear to me. I'm like, I gotta find him on LinkedIn. I want to follow him. Follow you.
Yeah.
And because you used to have this big financial company, right? You sold it, and yeah, is
Yeah.
that how that
I
went?
did. I
Yeah,
did.
made you millions there, and then started this new company, Levo, right? Is that how it's Levo?
Yep.
Yeah,
Levo, yeah.
it that is now about mental health and connecting people to true healing in the mental services. I, I think maybe I'd like to go back and start there. Tell me exactly what you do there. And I'm sure it's mission driven. What do you see as your mission with your company?
Yeah, there's a lot there in history, but, Levo as an organization, Levo, people ask me all the time, "Is that Levo? Like, what? Why Levo?" Well, it's Lego with a V, and, there it's it's an interesting name, but I think that to describe it to you, I think it's helpful to give you some context. So, Levo in Latin means to lift and make lighter.
Oh,
So when we started this company, it was there's a genesis, history there, and what was the driver, and why did we start it in the beginning? And I'll describe a little bit of that, but The short answer is to lift and make lighter the lives of people. You know, I
Mm.
As you said, I built a financial services company. I actually did it twice. I built, sold, and when I sold the second one in 2018, I sold with my 2 partners to a large publicly traded Fortune 500 company called Arthur J. Gallagher.
Hmm.
And when we sold the company, to be honest, it changed my life. I mean, it was an event. I woke up one morning and I was like, "This is different." The
Yeah.
financial rewards changed my stars, and
Yeah.
it was significant, and at that time, I felt so many emotions. Maybe I can describe that story to you a little bit more, but there was something in that moment of, "How in the world did I get here?"
Mm.
How did the slow kid growing up, ADHD, really struggled in school, had a learning disability, read later than all of my peers. I was the kid in class who, you know, twice a week, someone would show up at the doorway of my school class and say, you know, the tutor's here, and announce it
Uh,
to my classmates. And so I was the slow kid. And so there was the moment in selling this company where I just thought to myself, how did I get here? How did the slow kid get here? And a lot happened, from that
mm.
event. But one of the things that occurred is that it afforded my wife and I to sit down and to start to be present. Right? You talked about radical honesty. And so there was this moment of, what do we now want to do with our lives? What meaning can we bring to the rest of our life? Well, we prioritized our marriage first and our family. And one of the ways that we did that is my wife said, "It's always been my dream to become a marriage and family therapist." So she wanted to go into the mental health world as a professional provider.
Did you know that
And part of
before?
I did.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did.
I had known
Yeah.
for years, which was an interesting moment to come to where we were because we had talked about it for years. And the reason we talked about it is because my wife had been, at 21 years old, she went on an LDS mission. And 8 weeks into the missionary training center, she got very sick and basically left
Mm.
her mission. And she was diagnosed at the time with OCD and anxiety, which really
Ah,
had a significant impact on her life. Well,
sure.
if you know that culture, you know that world, to go on a mission and to leave after 8 weeks, there's an enormous amount of shame and guilt associated
Mm.
with not finishing.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward 20 something years later, right? She now is in a position to say, wait, a mental health professional changed my stars years ago. I want to now chase my dream to lift and make lighter the lives of others like me when I was 21. So she went back to school, enrolled in a master's program to become a marriage and family therapist. I took up making peanut butter and honey sandwiches and doing laundry. And, we had kids still at home, younger children. And so I was the house spouse, as we call me. Like, I'm a professional house spouse now. And it was a really cool time of life. It was hard. We had to recalibrate. I had never had that much time on my hands and had freedom, and she had never, in years, been
Mm-hmm.
focused on building a career and getting a master's degree. And it was cool because it scaffolded our appreciation for each other's roles the last 20 years. We
Mm.
really started to see through a different lens of, wow, how this is like, days are long at home. That's hard, and she was like, yeah, building a career, and like, this is it. Just, we had a mutual appreciation for each other. But she finished that program, and when she was done, she had to do internship hours with a therapy practice. And that therapy practice company owner, they approached her and said, "We know your husband's an investor. We know you could go start your own practice. We want you to stay. And we want you and your husband to consider buying some commercial real estate with us where we could put therapists, in the
Sure.
buildings." And so we sat with them and we did this discovery meeting. Well, my brain just works this way. I'm too curious. I want to know about everything. What is their business? What's the mental health world? All of it. And so we spent a lot of time getting to know them. Well, one thing led to the other. And I ended up, with my wife, Liza, buying a third of their company and the commercial real
Wow.
estate. And so overnight, we were in the mental health space, and so I just started to learn a lot about the industry and what was going on.
Can
That
I ask,
relationship, yeah,
can I ask,
you're good.
prior to that moment, when your wife said she wanted to do this, you knew that. And then when
Yeah.
there was an opportunity for you to step in, did you have promptings that this is a direction you wanted to go? Or was this like, wow, I never thought about this, but let's, I mean, where was your
Yeah.
what were your previous thoughts on this?
Yeah. This is such a great question. The answer, Mary, is a little bit of an inkling, but not this overwhelming prompting of like, this is
Mm,
exactly what we need to do. She did. She had a feeling of this is what
mm,
this is what my calling is. I need to be with people. And in truth, at that time, we had been married roughly 20 years. Everywhere we lived, no matter where we were, she was the neighborhood therapist.
yeah,
So even though she was not clinically practicing, people just gravitate to her. She is so approachable and she's an incredible listener like you. She reads people like a Jedi. She just has it.
mm,
And so she knew in her, internal, you know, just spirit that that was something that she needed to do. And so, that was part of our discussions of yes, like that was her thing. And I was willing to, I chased my thing. I had built and sold and built and sold. And so I wanted to be supportive. And to be honest, financially we could. We had the capability now
yeah,
to do it. But I didn't know until we got into owning part of this company how unified her story and my story would become a perfect fit for what we are
yeah,
doing. I knew that
oh,
I could bring talents and abilities in entrepreneurship and the business and how to
yeah,
scale the company and what to do, but I didn't really understand how much of a fit I was going to be in the mission of it. I knew that I could make money at it and help the business side, but only in time did things kind of morph into this is what I'm supposed to do right now, you know? And this is the word for you and I to talk through, which is stewardship,
yeah,
right? There's a time in a professional's life, if they're really committed to mission, really doing what they believe they're on the planet to do, where the wisdom, life experience, the talents, the abilities, and the financial capability all merge together for you to uniquely impact other people's lives. And when it fits
yes,
perfectly, you feel this incredible stewardship internally that I can't not do this. I have to do this. I'm uniquely positioned to impact this very thing
mhm,
right in front of me. And that happened to me. It is happening right now. And I'm doing this at Levo because I believe that this is why I'm on the planet right now to do this thing. So, yes, I mean, it's become a mission. It's critically important to what we're doing.
this is so evident in all of your social media posts, particularly on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Just even from the time that I started following you and being friends with you on LinkedIn and watching your posts come up in my feed every now and then, think and look at it and think, oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Oh, that's good. To now, when I see your post come into my feed, I immediately read. I know I'm going to read the entire thing because there is such meat there. There's such empathy there. There is such insight. And I kind of want to shout and say, like, did you all just see this post here? Like, and so sometimes I repost. I don't repost every time because the people are like, oh, yes, it's Tom
Yeah.
Telford stuff she's reposting. But you
Yeah.
have taken on this role of I've seen it of steward that now that you have this level of understanding and you have a company and you have a foundation and a platform to share, you've taken on the stewardship to share. And your posts have just completely shifted up, not morphed into something different. Just like,
Yeah.
when you downshift for more power, and you're just
Yes.
full throttle. And you're
Yeah.
not just up there coasting. You could be a coaster, you know that. I
Yeah.
could be a coaster,
Yeah.
but we both chose something different. And so as you look into this life of the non-coaster, what piece of it most excites you?
Yeah. This is it. I'll describe it to you. So there's really two components to this. One, I know that we are changing lives of the mental health of the people we serve.
Mm,
I know we are. I've seen it. It's proven. In a business, you may say, oh, we have proof of concept. We have market fit. We
right.
have clear line of sight. Like from a business perspective, we are moving the needle of the mental health of the lives of the patients we serve. Proven. I know it, right?
Point. End of
But then there's
discussion.
this
Okay.
other, yeah, but then there's this other component that is, if it makes sense, it's deeper and even more meaningful to me. And this gets to something you asked me before we hit record. And that is, but what do I believe my part is personally?
Right.
So I employ providers who are men and women who are clinically trained to sit with patients, assess, diagnose, and treat their mental health. And they're dang good at it.
Yeah.
Like I don't just in the last 6 months, I've interviewed 50 to 60 mental health professionals. I've hired six. So I
Wow.
see lots, I interview
Yeah.
tons, and I want the best of the best Jedis, right? I want the best. And what the best is in our world clinically is can they connect genuinely and authentically? Can they connect and see the human? Do they step over dollars to pick up quarters? No.
Mm,
They sit and they listen. They're very present. Can they communicate really well? Can they read people and understand when they're not sharing? Can they ask the additional question like you just did? So can they connect? Can they communicate? And can they create truly a culture of care that people leave going, Levo cares about me. They
yeah.
gave me an hour to sit and and have a conversation. So first and foremost
Mm,
is the culture of care at Levo. And I know that we have that. And I know we've landed it. But when I come to work as a leader, as the owner of the company, as the CEO, I'm a co-owner with three other women. And we have other executive team members on our leadership team. My patient is those leaders. All
your
the
stewardship. Yeah.
clinical professionals are going to come to work and they're going to care for the patient and I trust them implicitly to do that. But I am not trained to be a clinical professional. I am trained to lead companies. I am trained to lead leaders. And so when I come to work and I think about, what am I excited about? What gets me out of bed in the morning? If I can help grow leaders from JV, junior varsity leaders to varsity or pros, that just there's something about that just lights me up. And I'm not saying I'm a pro leader. I'm just saying for 20 years, I sat in literally almost 5,000 board meetings. I
Yeah.
traveled
Yeah.
several hundred, actually probably over 1,000 nights. I calculated at one time I was gone 3 years of my children's lives. I never was in the
Wow.
military. I was just traveling the country. So I was gone a lot. I sat in a lot of meetings. My clients were large banks, hospitals, and in credit unions. So I sat in thousands of board meetings, thousands of leadership meetings. I only got hired if leaders said yes to me in a majority vote on the board. So I got to sit and watch leadership teams for hours and years and years and years lead companies. And so I have a unique
Hmm.
lens and training to just see leaders and see what goes on, among leadership teams. So that has become my capability, what I can bring to the table, with my leadership team at Levo. And so when I think through coming to work and how I'm going to impact, my team, I'm bringing years of experience to the table, not just who I am. It's not an arrogance. It's just I sat in lots of meetings and I got to
Yeah.
see, what was
Yeah.
going on. Well, think of this just from a perspective of someone who's built and sold a couple times. When I decided how I was going to invest my own money and I decided if I was going to build Levo, who did I go try to partner and find to lead? Right? Did I go try to find, a CEO or the guy who has a master's in health administration? Did I try to go steal someone from Intermountain Healthcare or Huntsman Mental Health or University of Utah? No. I went and found intentionally women
Mm.
who could bring their life experience of who they are and what they do to help build the company. Because I believe that women have a unique default skill set just in who they are and the way that they view the world. After thousands and thousands of board meetings, the organizations that I saw that were not building to just make profit for a year, but they were building companies to kill it for year after year after year. Long term sustainability. If you really take all of those experiences on long term sustainable profit and growth, the boards of those institutions had several women on the board, and they were women with a strong voice, but they
Mm.
also were incredible listeners. They read the room, they had high
Yeah.
EQ, they had the ability to take all the information in, decipher it, and before they really would speak and take over the room, they would really think through, how are we going to make a tactical decision here? With the thought of being a long-term successful company, not just vanity metrics for the year, right?
Mm.
So I saw these capabilities of these organizations when strong women leaders were involved in shaping the directional decision making in the company. And today I can tell you that even though the other women, Beth Waldron, who's the president of Levo, Stacy Davies, who's the director of clinic services, and Andrea Beckstrom, who's the medical director. These women haven't built and run companies ever,
Mm.
but their ability to sit
Right.
and listen and
Mm.
execute and do it with everybody, on the team at once. They're not going to overpower. They don't overpower. They're very subtle, but they're so wise in how they think about, how does this decision impact everybody's buy-in and the culture of the organization. And so when I think about building, Labo and what I'm passionate about, it's empowering these other women leaders at Labo to do what they're just naturally good at, right? And they have different skill sets. None of the three of them are the same, but they're incredible at what they do. And this is kind of an odd thing to say, but it's just kind of a unique thing that you and I have kind of had the experience in. In 2018, when I sold that company, I crossed the biggest financial finish line of my life, and it
Yeah.
felt incredible. There was elation like I've never experienced. Well, guess what? The next best thing that I thought about was, if I could now help other people cross their finish lines, that has to feel incredible.
Buddha.
And so I started doing it. And what I realized was that helping other people cross their biggest finish line, it felt sweeter than my own. And you can pile up a lot of those wins for other people. Like, to build and sell another one, it takes a lot of years. You may
Mm.
get, if you're a great entrepreneur, maybe you'll do it 4 or 5 times in a lifetime, but I can impact hundreds of people's finish lines and have elation more in my life. And
Mm.
I'm really interested selfishly. How crazy does that sound? I selfishly want to have a little piece of hundreds of other people's big finish lines. It brings more elation into your life when it's other people's and you
Yeah.
can do more, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm passionate about what we're doing at Levo and having these other women cross some incredible elation finish lines of their own. But that's how I just now I live through that lens. I really want to be a steward of what I've had the opportunity to do and accomplish, but I really want to involve others in their own finish lines. It's incredible.
Mhm.
I just love that. I mean, I love mentoring. I love helping and lifting other
Yeah,
people. I really want others to win. It's a blast.
it is. I probably meet with at least two, well, sometimes four, but at least two people a day who have reached out to me and asked for an hour of my time just to sit and talk to me and ask me questions and have me talk to
Yeah,
them about what I feel about their presence and where they're going. These are people that don't even know me. I know
yeah,
you don't know me. That's how that starts off. You know what I mean? But so and so reached out to me and said they thought, and so, but
yeah,
as you were talking about this, Tom, and I was thinking about my career, and this is an interesting piece. We both sold our companies in 2018.
mm,
Yeah. So, but I was thinking about my career and probably the number one key asset that allowed me to go from selling cookies and bread in the little red wagon to my neighbors door to door to where I ended up in the largest catering company in the state and more awards than you can shake a stick at internationally. There was one key factor, and it's the same as what I just heard you talk about. When you were in those board meetings and they were either trying to decide if they were going to hire your company or if they were going to take your advice that you were offering, to when you now have a team of mental health professionals and they watch how you lead, to the client who's come for help and they've not had success yet. There's a key one piece that unites all of these things. And that key piece is trust. People will follow you anyway if they trust you. They will buy
yeah,
anything from you. They will take any advice from you if they trust you. They will open their hearts to share things they never thought they would if they trust you. It's all about that one key piece. When I've gone to talk to business students in college classes, and I tell them, that tool belt you have on the side of your that you think is so valuable, and you might think it's like these classes where I learned this, or it was my internship where I did this, or it's my dad's last name, or whatever it is on that tool belt that you see as your ace in the hole. None of them outsurpass your integrity.
yeah,
I don't care what your dad's last name is, and I don't care what letters you have behind your name. If I don't trust you, none of that matters. And I think that's the one thing I can say that I know about you, Tom. I could share anything in my life right now with you because I know that I could trust you to use that information for my benefit rather than yours.
yeah.
It's a
Well,
gift you
first of all,
have.
yeah, you know what? Mary, it is a gift, but it's a stewardship,
It is
right?
the stewardship
It
piece.
is, and so I come back to that. A week ago Sunday, I got a DM on Instagram from a guy. He said, "You don't know me. I read a post of yours. Could I call you sometime? I'm not doing well." Absolutely call me. He calls me. We spend an hour together. He
Yeah.
breaks down. He confides in me trauma that happened 8 years ago that no human should ever have to deal with. And again, I'm not a clinician, right? So I'm not masquerading out
I'm
there
not
as a
either.
mental health
Yeah.
professional, right? And I'm just being honest, like, hey, if you need help, I know where to help you find it, right? I just want to facilitate people getting help. And so I he confides in me this 8-year-old trauma. And I felt so much stewardship that he allowed. I mean, he could barely say it out. He had never said it out of his own mouth. He's a
Wow.
40-year-old adult male. He's never said it out loud of his own mouth. He was shaking when he told me what it was. So when people
Mm,
confide in me, when people confide in a mental health professional, the scariest, hardest thing they've ever lived and done, I feel an enormous amount of stewardship to do right by that trust, right?
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel the exact same when I come to work. These leaders, these employees that we have, I'm not there to just pillage for profit. I'm there to truly own the stewardship of I've had life experience, I have wisdom, knowledge, capabilities based on what I've done and accomplished. I can't use that to take advantage of people. I need to
Mm,
use that for stewardship. How
mm,
much can I provide for them so that they can in turn provide for our patients? And so it is a gift to be trusted, but it takes an incredible amount of scaffolding, right? You have to
mm.
build reputation. You have
Oh,
to build
yes.
trust, and you only are trusted when you've earned the right to be trusted. Knowledge, work ethic, commitment, doing hard things, showing up when you don't want to, all the things that I know you are. I've seen you do it, right? Trust is not just granted,
Yeah.
you earn it and then you hold it, right? It's a stewardship of the bird that is very, very, right, fragile. If you tighten that grip, you'll crush the bird. You have to just allow enough flexibility. And so I feel strongly about that stewardship today. If you think about leaders in the world today, just think about who's in the public eye of leadership. Are they using their power for their own benefit to maintain power? Or are they using their power to lift and make lighter the lives of other people who trust
Mm,
them?
yeah.
So have they used their experience and power that they have to lift other people, or are they using it for, to take advantage of this situation? And right now, there's just a lot of examples of leaders who are using that, truly to stay in power instead
Mm.
of power to others, empowering, And anyway, we could go on and on about that, but
That
to
stewardship
build,
of that you have when you have people's trust. So it's not a one and done. I have your trust, so now I can do whatever I want. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not one and
yeah,
done. It's stewardship is the act of trust on a continuum.
yeah.
I was going to ask you, Tom, and I don't want this to be an info commercial, but still. And by the
Do
way,
it.
listeners, at the end of this podcast, we're going to include all the kinds of um, things that you can keep up with Tom and his LinkedIn posts, his handles, and you can find there the website of his company, all the things so that you can stay in touch with all the wisdom that he's spouting all the time. But as I think about this company that you have and the number of listeners I have that who realize they're not one and done. Oh, yes, I overcame this, but they also realize that there's another path in front of them. Our entire path in this existence is made of stumbling blocks and rocks and, or quicksand or whatever it is. It's not just, oh, I accomplished that. And so now I get the pavement flat, level zero, just get to walk. That's not us. That's not what we want either. So these women and men who are listening, who think, I have this one thing that's been in my heart I've never shared. I have this thing that I would like to actually look at and deal with and finally overcome. I have this part that I have kept hidden and I'm ashamed to let anyone see. Where is help for them, Tom? What kind of help does does Levo offer? And is that where they start? Where do these people look first?
Yeah. I love that you asked the question. So, Mary, if it's okay, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you right now.
Always.
Okay. We're going to model this for
Okay.
listeners who may have just heard the question that you asked and thought, hmm, what am I carrying? What am I dealing with? So interesting enough, last week, I had this young man reach out to me. He wanted to visit, really struggling, young married guy in Utah, very charismatic, just I mean, you would meet him and think this guy's got it all together. He's gonna
Mm,
kill it in his life. But he's really struggling, mentally just he's off, that's kind of how he describes it. I just don't have any direction or really purpose of what I'm really
mm,
supposed to do, in life. So he's struggling. He's trying to find alignment for what he really wants to be, in this life. So we were supposed to visit on Thursday. And my day got crazy, busy. I said, "Hey, I can't do it. Can we talk tomorrow?" Well, the next day, I had a medical procedure in the morning. This was last Friday. So I didn't feel good the rest of the day. Just
yeah.
sent him a text, "Hey, can we catch up tomorrow?" So I move him to Saturday, right? I'm moving him along. And he wants to visit with me, right? He's seen what I post. He's heard from other people like, "You need to talk to Tom.
Mm,
Like, just catch up with
mm,
him when you can." And I love to do that. It's my favorite thing to talk with people who are struggling or in pain or trying to find purpose. I find that really rewarding for me. But I had pushed him off for a couple days. Well, Friday, I had this medical procedure. And without going into detail, because I don't know a lot of detail, the outcome wasn't good.
oh,
I woke up, the doctor says, "Hey, I'm not going to sound the alarms with you, Tom, but this is this isn't good."
and
So literally real time, Mary, I'm going live today, right? With news that I don't know. There are big question marks for, my own history in the past, new information going forward that I will learn about, as my tests come back. But whatever it was, the look on the doctor's face for me on Friday was, this is
mm,
concerning. This is
yeah.
real. And you need to take that serious. So you asked the question, so I'm being vulnerable with your audience, right? So what does Levo do? Levo does a lot, but I'm going to challenge you as a listener. If you're sitting on something internally, right? If it is a trauma of your past, if it is a terminal illness, if it is news from a doctor, I just got some. I hear you. Our pain and suffering is work that we do to earn the right to sit with other people who are going to cross the same paths that we have.
Mm,
And we should never waste our own suffering. If we're going to deal with it and it's going to be heavy, we should never waste it. We should utilize it. It becomes a stewardship. Suffering is a stewardship to love and lift other people. So
yeah.
today, when you ask, what does Levo do? Levo does what I just did. They're going to sit with people and vulnerably listen and share, right? No one comes to Levo that doesn't have a story. No
Mm,
one. If I'm in the interview and they're just like, "Hey, my life's perfect. I've done everything right. Nothing hard has ever happened to me." If they don't lead with, "I've had a life that's hard and I can be
yeah.
real about it," and sit with other people in their hard, you get it, right?
Yeah.
You're not equipped to sit with someone in pain unless you truly have worked through pain. That is what is on your resume, I want to know. That's what qualifies for you to come to Levo. If you haven't suffered, you have not earned the right to sit with others who have suffered. Well, guess
Mhm.
what? I'm hurting right now.
Yeah.
I got news on Friday that we don't know. So this is what Levo is. It's not just another mental health company that competes for people's mental health, right? It literally is in the DNA. You know, everybody at Levo who leads, who is a clinician, our staff people, every single person has a story that qualifies them for sit with other people who have been in pain. So when you walk into our front office and you go to the front desk, guess what? The woman or man, the guy, the boy, whoever is going to check you in, I'm telling you that they have a story because I've interviewed them.
Yeah.
I know that they are going to sit compassionately checking people in, taking their insurance card, taking their copay. Yes, there's a financial transaction, but guess what? It's not empty. You're not a commodity. And the person who's going to check you in, they are not going to treat you that way. So, Levo is a mental health company that can assess, diagnose, and treat humans, the whole human.
Mm.
They're not going to throw a med at you. They're not going to throw one answer to you. They're going to sit with you in a first assessment, 60 minutes, just a one on one conversation with a professional. 60 minutes,
Wow.
right? You use the word start. When people start, well, Levo is where you should start.
Mhm.
Levo is primary mental health care. Instead of going to a primary care physician, a pediatrician, your OB, because you're anxious or you're struggling with your mental health or you feel depressed, you should start at Levo. Our clinicians are really the primary care of mental health. And so they're going to sit with you for 60 minutes, assess what's going on. They're going to talk to you about the spectrum of mental health care, right? And it is a spectrum. There's no one person who's just stuck in one spot, and we're not all graduated either. You don't just get healed in your mental
Yeah.
health.
In fact, none of us are graduated.
No. And so there's three parts. There's
Maybe
three
working on our
key.
doctorate, but we're not graduated yet.
Yeah. And so we call it the mental health spectrum: illness, wellness, and performance.
Mm.
Right. And so if you're mentally ill, we're going to, assess that, diagnose it, and we're going to get you on the spectrum towards betterment. We're going to move you towards wellness. Wellness is where you
Mm.
become more mindful. You can sit with a therapist. Yoga may be involved. Diet, nutrition. How much do you sleep? How much do you get outside in the sun? You start to scaffold wellness practices into your life. And so medication isn't
Yeah.
the only answer. It's not, nor is therapy the only answer, right? The gold standard of mental health care is the biopsychosocial model. The bio, the body, Levo's that. We are the bio and the biopsychosocial. The psycho is therapy,
Mm.
sitting with a therapist, hearing new ideas, hearing how you think. How do you see the world? What's your lens? That's the psycho component. And then the social is how I met you,
Yeah.
right? I was invited by Randy Vega to go to a Promise to Live event at Silicon Slopes. Great social setting to
Yeah.
learn mental health tools, right? So that's the social, our family, our friends, our employer, our, education, where we go to school. All of that is social. And so if you don't address all three, the bio, the psycho, and the social, if something is missing, you're not going to feel your best. And so that spectrum, of mental health care is important to go from ill to well, from well to perform. So I get asked all the time, Tom, why is Levo in the hormone replacement therapy business? Right?
That may be what
So
they
many
need. Yeah.
people, so many people in our lives think, well, hormones are all about six-pack abs and big biceps and trying to look like Mary, like, is in the weight room, like, "You look incredible," right? But what they don't recognize is that if you're a man, and you're taking depression or anxiety medication, and you are over 30, 35 years old, and you've never had your testosterone checked, guess what?
It's probably
It's
plummeting.
possible that you feel anxious or depressed because your
Yeah.
testosterone is 0, clinically
Yeah.
too low. You get your testosterone right, all of a sudden, you don't need hormones or you don't need anxiety medication anymore.
Right.
Our
Right.
hormones are central to our mental health. So, illness, wellness, performance. Most people think hormones are performance, all performance,
Mm,
but it's our core mental health, right?
right.
And so that's who Levo is. Compassionate
Love that.
people sitting with others who are trying to scaffold, right, these mental health principles and helping them move along that spectrum of care.
I think finding and seeking the best health for you is one of the keys to health. It may be that you just need to sit down and talk with some of your girlfriends and they're like, wait a minute, this isn't working for you. You're being like this, you're manipulated. Can you see that that guy is totally a manipulator? Get away from him. So, you just need a little feedback and to be able to
You
step
do.
back and have somebody give you feedback. That might be what you need. Maybe you need to talk
Absolutely.
to Mary and she can give you some feedback on mentoring, on what you're going to do for your career and your passion in life. Maybe it is that you just need a recipe, a good recipe for roles. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you don't know
Yeah.
what you need. But the other time is I see so many people who the health seek health from their clergy, who are certainly trained in compassion, but not trained in teaching the healing arts of that you might be needing. And so to be aware of where to seek help. And maybe it is beyond those people, and maybe you're at a critical stage where you actually need to check yourself in somewhere. And calling and waiting for an appointment that's 2 weeks out, maybe that's not what you need today. Let's get some
Right.
crisis intervention. So, really assessing where you are on that spectrum. And when you have a company such as Levo that can really help you find that, even if you don't know what you need, somebody that has a lot of tools at their hands can really help you find the next step. And I think that's one of the huge values of a company that does a variety of things.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate what you have to offer there.
Yeah, that's
Now,
kind of you, and that's true. I mean, that is their goal. Labo is not a one-stop shop mental health
yeah,
Costco, right? We know exactly where we fit.
yeah,
We want people to start with us, but if it's not what we believe they need, then, then we help them find the best solution. So, yeah,
I,
that's our stewardship, right? We don't solve it all, but we help them find it.
so now before we end, and we're long past our time, but every bit of this was worth it.
Yeah,
Let's talk about you for a sec.
sure.
Tom, I see you. I felt you. That's the problem with doing these virtual podcasts, is I'm just not able to wrap you up in my arms and hold you,
Yeah,
and to
thank
let
you.
you know that I'm here, as well as so many other people who care for you and want the best for you. Your vulnerability and your willingness to step in to this virtual platform and share something so recent and close to you speaks to your commitment to vulnerability. That will lead you to your healing.
Yeah,
The greatest piece, one liner that I wrote in my book is the healing starts the moment the hiding stops. And as long as we are hiding, healing cannot happen. You're not. You're willing to be vulnerable and step into healing. So I want you to hold
yeah,
on to that. Your ability to do that today,
yeah,
here and now, may be the very thing that opened the door to a healing.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I wondered if it would surface, right?
Uh,
I wondered, I mean, this is fresh news for me. I mean,
yeah,
it's 40 hours, 48 hours old, but if one listener is emboldened to have courage and bravery to take a step, you know, it will be helpful to my own journey. I believe that. I would have not shared if I already hadn't had the experience of going public with my own suffering. I've done that. My
yeah,
childhood, other experiences I've had as an adult. When I was willing to lean into it and to have some courage to share it openly, to your point, that's when my healing started. Until
yeah,
I, was able to just bring it out, the healing didn't begin, it was hiding, to your point, and
yeah,
hiding is a toxic loop, at least for me it's
yeah.
been, right? It's always not helped me. So, I hope for your listeners who are listening, they don't feel like I was trying to dramatize my news
Yeah.
because it wasn't. I feel I feel this stewardship inside me to be radically honest. That's why I started with that. That,
Yeah.
did it surface today? It did. And was I willing to share it? Yeah, because I really want to be radically honest. I think that's part of the problem in the world today is that people just really struggle being honest and putting it out there for a number of reasons. But Mary, I'm grateful that I had the platform to be radically honest with you today.
I
Thank
am
you.
too. I am
Yeah.
too. It's, of course, everyone thinks, well, not everyone. A lot of people know they're just liars and cheats. But for the most part, people believe that they are honest and that
Yeah.
they believe that they are honest with themselves and those that are close to them. But when you start to really delve in to what things are we still hiding? I recently, this was probably a couple months ago, someone contacted me and said, I'm trying to find people to go on this podcast of a medium. I'm like, oh, that would be sounds interesting. What does she do? Well, she on the podcast would read you and then be able to have that on the podcast and you can say whether, it was right or wrong, blah, 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 blah. I thought, oh, how fun. Okay. I'm thinking kicks and giggles. And so afterwards, when I told somebody that I had done this, they went, seriously? You let a medium read you on a podcast that's going to go out to the world? And then I started thinking, uh, maybe that wasn't the best idea. So I called her producer and I said, I was just wondering, I know that wasn't a live podcast and you're probably going to do some editing. And if there's anything on there that doesn't seem like it should be shared, uh, let me know and we'll talk about it. And so she called me back and she said, there's this moment, Mary, where you share and you say, I've never in my life spoken to anyone about this. No one. And I thought to myself, this seems an odd place for Mary to share that. And so I just thought I'd ask you about it, if I should take that off.
Yeah.
I sat with it for just a minute, Tom. I thought, well, absolutely, we're going to take that off. My God, are you kidding me? But then I realized the commitment that I had made to myself to be radically honest, to not hide. And I said to this producer, if that's my commitment, and by sharing, it's not hurting anyone, but revealing me, I want to leave it there. And she said, wow, it's who I am. It's my
Yeah.
commitment, just like your commitment. And by doing that, the healing I felt inside to not be hiding that anymore was such a gift to myself. That's what you did today, Tom. By willing to offload that, be vulnerable, is now the gift and the door for you to heal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I I believe that. Thank you. Been an honor to be on.
Thank you so much, Tom. And to my listeners, you can see why this is part of crafting your meaningful life. It's part of crafting your life where you make that decision for radical honesty. When you make that decision to be a steward of what you have learned to share with others, to be a steward of yourself, and to be the best steward of yourself is to be about being your very best self. That's what Tom and I want for all of you. And so until next time, may you take each day with this radical approach of honesty, integrity, and trust. Thank you.
Crafting a meaningful life.